Plum to lead us in prayer.
Almighty God, we acknowledge that we have a responsibility to look after your creation, especially this region we call the Barcaldine Regional Council. We are also conscious that our decisions are going to affect deeply the lives, land and the property of the people we have come here to serve. Remind us to exercise respect for each of our fellow councillors, staff and for the people of our region. Help us in this meeting to act wisely, justly and intelligently in all our deliberations. Thank you, Lord, for the privilege of both leading and serving, and assist us to do this well. Amen.
Today, councillors, I have one notice of bereavement for the late Dorothy Smoothie of Barcaldine. Is anyone else aware of any others? If I could ask for us to observe a minute of silence, please. Thank you. All present, there being no apologies. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet and operate, and their elders past, present and emerging. Declarations of councillors' material personal interest. Where shall we start? Councillor Plum.
Right. I have a material of personal interest in 3.3.13 in shovel-ready projects, which I have been part of the supplier for the recreational park. Is that the one? And then I've got a material personal interest in 3.6.1. Sorry, that's the works report that I have a supplier of material interest, the 3.3.13 shovel-ready project.
So within the works report, it's only goal 313.
Yes.
Thank you. Can you just state, due to your role as an employee for...
Supplying, business supplying.
And that business is?
Elders Rural Services.
Elders Rural Services. Thank you, Councillor Plum. Do you have any? We'll do COIs in a moment. We'll just stick with MPIs, councillors. Councillor Pegg.
Mr Mayor, I have a material personal interest in several items here, and I'll start by declaring I have a material personal interest in the matter as defined in section 172 of the Local Government Act 2009 due to in 3.3.10 to being my home and business is in that street that will probably be resealing. In 3.3.13 is a potential supplier to the ski park. In 3.4.4, I'm sorry Harley, I'm jumping over the place with here. I'm a potential supplier of projects in this report. In 3.4.13, my business could receive a benefit if depending on opening or closing the caravan parks, could receive a benefit or loss there. In 3.6.3, my business could also be a potential supplier there. And in 3.3.11, that's to do with the racetrack and the water being shifted to the racetrack. I do race horses and I'm also a bookmaker, so I could have an MPI there. 3.6.1, Harley, I could be a potential supplier 3.6.1. 3.6.2, the same. I could be a potential supplier. And Mr. Mayor, I hope that's all.
Thank you. So did you want to list individually, Councillor Peoples, the goals within 3.6.1?
Look, I think there was one goal there where I could stay, Mr. Mayor, and there's nothing in that goal.
Peoples, if that is your determination, thank you. Councillor Gleeson.
Mr. Mayor, I declare an interest in 3.314, moving the West Tech public holiday.
The conflict of interest.
That's conflict of interest.
Yep, sorry, we'll come back and do conflicts. We're just doing MPIs for a start.
MPI, the question with the MPI is item 3.42 in, I want to ask a question if you don't mind. The general planning services, there is an item there to 3.42 consultant extractive industry solutions, a quarry operation on a parcel of rural land. I would like to clarify where that rural land is before I declare material interest.
Thank you, Councillor Gleeson. That's a very good question because any of us with rural land could potentially be affected by that application. So can I direct that to officers to confirm the site and location of that potential it's referred to in the real planning report, please?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware of where that land is.
Anybody else assist? In the absence of further information, Councillor Gleeson, you're not able to declare an MPI because you don't know where it is any more than I do. So, failing that, any other MPIs?
No, thank you.
Councillor Hanson, that's good.
Okay, you already have it. I, Councillor Arthur, declare that I have a material personal interest as defined by the Local Government Act 2009, Section 175B, I hope it's correct, in the following items: 3.310, 3.313, 3.4.1, 3.4.4, 3.6.1, 3.6.2, 3.6.3, 3.6.4, 3.7.1, 3.8.1 and 3.9.1. As I stand to gain a benefit depending on the outcome of the Council's consideration of this matter. I stand to gain a benefit or suffer a loss because I am an employee of Michael Horman Transport and Rennie Enterprises, which is a tenderer, possible supplier to the projects mentioned above and in reports. I will be dealing with this declared material person of interest by leaving the meeting while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Thank you, Councillor
Sufficient
Arthur.
information?
Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I declare that I have a material personal interest as defined by the Local Government Act 2009, Section 175B, in the following: in 3.3.10, 3.3.13, 3.4.4, 3.4.13, 3.4.14, and in 3.6.1, Goal 1, Goal 3 and Goal 5. This is because I stand to gain a benefit depending on the outcome of the Council's consideration of the matter. I stand to gain a benefit or a loss because due to my partner being an employee at the moment for contractor Kim Ford, who has supplied services to the council, and also because I own a registered sculpture business, scrap metal shealer, and I have been approached to supply services in relation to the recreation lake. Also, tourism will affect that business. And I will be dealing with this material personal interest by leaving the meeting while the matters are discussed and voted on in those areas.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. I declare that I have a material personal interest as defined by the Local Government Act 2009 in agenda items 3.311 and 3.4.12. As I stand to gain a benefit pending on councillors' consideration of that matters. I stand to gain benefit or suffer a loss because I stand to gain due to my partnership in the business known as Surbiton Station, owner of the land, and my ownership of a horse that may use the extra meetings outlined in that report. I will be dealing with this declared material personal interest by leaving the meeting while the matter is discussed and voted on. Councillors, COIs please. I have none. Councillor Rogers, do you have any?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, I don't believe I have.
Councillor Arthur, surely not, because you don't really have much.
else to deal. And just, sorry, Mr Mayor, through you, just to clarify, in the engineer report, it's goal 2, 3 and 5.
Okay. Goal 2, 3 and 5 in the engineering report.
Goal 4 is empty.
Yeah, I know. We thought that'd be the only one councillors that will be allowed to stay for. Goal no, Councillor Hanson, sorry. Councillor Gleeson, any potential COIs here for you?
Yeah.
Potential with the 3.314 West Tech public holiday, because moving to we are voting to maybe move that holiday to another event, and I am the president of the Buckholland Campdraft Committee. So
Councillor Gleeson, I move that you be allowed to stay in the room for the purposes of discussion and voting on the resolution. Can I call for a seconder? Councillor Plum, thank you. All in favour? Motion is carried. Give the officers a chance to catch up. Any more, Councillor Gleeson?
no, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Peoples.
Just clarification, please, Mr Mayor, with regards to the transfer of water to the racecourse, and I'm also the chair of the Central West Racing Association, but I'm leaving the room anyway under an MPI. Is there any need to also declare a COI?
Councillor Peoples, considering the track is already turfed in Buckholland, it's only a mechanical difference to whether it's an internal council decision whether we use potentially treated water or explore the option of using treated water. So there'd be no enhancement of the facility or detraction of the facility in any way. Whilst I note that you did declare an MPI, I personally struggle to see that there is an MPI existing for you there, because it's not changing anything about the track.
That is one that I sought advice on from the local government department.
Yep.
And they did advise me to leave the room, so I will take their advice and leave the room, but I just don't think I need a COI because I've already leaving the room with an MPI.
You're out, so you're fine. Councillor Plum.
I had one COI on 3.3.14. I declare that I have conflict of interest in this matter and propose to, I'm going to stay in the room.
You need a resolution from someone to do that, but I'm happy. You're declaring that COI, Councillor Plum, because you are an executive member of West Tech, is that correct?
West Tech Field Days.
I move that Councillor Plum be entitled to stay in the room, discuss and vote on the matters therein, given that West Tech is no longer running in 2020. Can I call for a second? Councillor Hanson. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Let the officers catch up on their paperwork here. Mammoth session. When you're ready, we will proceed.
Can I just ask one other thing.
We actually asked next time that we set up a smoko table outside for all of us that are out of the room more often than we're in. Cole, you're the only one that gets to stay here all day.
Mr Mayor, I just ask for clarification on one other thing, please. I quoted out of this old document I've got 172 of the Local Government Act, and I think Dan was 175B. So is that the new Bill Curra legislation, is it?
I didn't use a statute number because I noted councillors using different statutes of the Act, and I thought, well, if I don't use one, I can't be wrong. 175 and 172 will clarify that and provide advice. It's in that information that was provided to councillors at the onboarding.
This is a document from the previous term, so I'd say that mine's wrong, yeah.
Definitely 175.
Okay, thank you.
All right, how are we, Harley? 1 second, not a problem. Thank you, officers, for your forbearance in this respect. And thank you, councillors, for the manner within which you approached a very serious aspect of being a councillor in 2020. I move to agenda item 3.2.1. Can I have someone move that that report be received, please? Move Plum, seconded Peoples. All in favour? Carried. Questions, please. Sorry?
Minutes first.
Oh, sorry. Here we go, out of order already. Remember that was Peoples and Plum. So don't get it wrong to the table.
Thank you.
I'll get it. Confirmation of minutes of the general meeting 29 April. Can I have somebody move that those minutes be received? Rogers, Peoples. All in favour? Carried. Any questions or commentary around those minutes that would have been on the can?
Just one thing, Mr Mayor. I think our policy says that they'll be published within 10 days.
Correct.
Can we do a little bit better than that?
So what was I did ask them, we did them up when they were on by Wednesday, is that correct?
So that's 7 days.
We did have them up in 7, but I don't know, there was an issue with the website
Yeah.
because you emailed me asking.
Yeah,
that
because
question.
I had, whether it was, updating or whatever, it just, but even 7 days seems to be a considerable amount of time considering we digitally record the minutes, or digitally take the minutes at the meeting. Whether that's an internal administrative reviewed, I'm not sure.
They are reviewed, they definitely are reviewed to check their accuracy, like there's the minutes that you see in front of you, but then there's also the minutes that Brett and Stephen take to make sure that we
So
correlate.
it's a lengthier period,
Just to check
process
that.
then.
Because, see, the alternative would be effectively we could publish them today and then sit here and go through all the amendments, present the amendments to the minutes to reflect now, whereas a couple of days longer means that we almost never amend the minutes. They are a very true reflection. And the other thing that now benefits us, of course, is that we just check the tape. But we do check the tape. If there's a difference between officers' reporting of it, and I must admit, since I've started chairing, I actually don't hardly look at the screen at all, hence why I just missed item 1 on the agenda and skipped item 3. But so definitely try to ensure that absolute accuracy of them, which does compromise a little bit of speed. But certainly your observations noted, and the website issue, we'll try to make sure that they were visible, definitely visible on our systems, but whether there was a public facing issue, I'm not sure. Thank you, Doug. Can we have somebody move that they be confirmed then, in the light of that? Thank you, Councillor Arthur. Councillor Plum, seconds. In favour? Gary, do any councillors have petitions they would like to present? There being none, move to reports. We moved Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Peoples. 3.2.1 be received. Carried unanimously. Any questions? There being Councillor Plum.
Can I just ask one thing, Mr Mayor? I don't really think I should ask this question. It's to do with the residents of this Barcaldine Recreation Park, but I don't think I should ask. So I'll refrain from that, thank you.
Councillor Plum.
I just wondered how you got on, that's all.
There's a matter still underway.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Peters.
Dot point 3, the meeting you had with Senator McDonald to discuss the applications for the Aquatic Centre.
Yes.
Just we've spoken in the past about our debt policy, and we're still to look at that, aren't we? We're going to change that debt policy because I think the debt policy says that we shouldn't have any borrowings.
So the debt policy is a document adopted in the budget every year, and it changes year on year depending on what our forecast borrowing requirements are.
Okay, but we did look at it at the last.
Budget workshop, it was,
Yeah.
we said we'd identify whether there was a need to borrow once we had a look at what our bottom line might be.
And if that's possibly going to go ahead. Yeah. No, that's fine if we can.
It's not going to go ahead this financial year, so the debt policy is only relevant for each 12 months adopted, that it's adopted for. So
this announcement of this aquatic centre won't be in this financial year.
well, it could possibly be tomorrow, Councillor Peoples, but we won't be spending $1 on it the next 5 weeks.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm looking at the next budget too.
Yeah. So the debt policy as it stands is accurate. There won't be any borrowings this financial year.
No, I'm talking about in the next budget. We will have a look at that debt policy to change in case we need to. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor,
Councillor Rogers.
the Dryden Street Capricorn Highway, is that T section, the intersection right down there near the railway?
No, it's the intersection near the school oval.
Yeah.
Actually, I can ask the engineer to comment about this because I have reported in my conversations with the Sergeant of Police. It's not the first time the Sergeant's raised it. In fact, I think it goes back 18 months. It's definitely in Rick's tenure because Rick was familiar with it, but I won't speak any more for Rick. He can do that in a moment. But there has been some significant community concern expressed around visibility at that intersection, specifically visibility to the south. And because it is a genuine give way, cars are not coming to a complete stop. So there was two elements to that meeting. One is the speed entering town. The 60 kilometre zone is too close to the approaches to town on the Capricorn Highway. And the Sergeant is chasing support to create an 80 kilometre zone on the western approaches to Alpha. Currently it goes from 100 to 60, and it also goes to a 60 after a street that we've constructed enters the Cap Highway. So the speed zone is an old speed zone, it hasn't been moved, whereas we have constructed a street that intersects the Cap Highway west of the 60 kilometre zone. So there's pretty good grounds in my opinion, as well as the terrain of the land. You're falling away very quickly on the way into town. So Sergeant has suggested moving a 60k sign to the top of the hill and putting an 80k sign at an appropriate distance prior to that to allow for trucks to be completely slow. And he's also suggested shifting the 60 kilometre sign to the eastern side of the Tambo Road intersection of the Cap Highway for the same purpose, because cars are still, or trucks are still exceeding 60 kilometres an hour when they come past the Caribbean Park and our first street intersection, which the next one happens to be Dryden Street. And he's very concerned about, he's witnessed near misses there, and as a resident of that community, I can tell you there's a lot of near misses there. He doesn't want to see the established trees cut down on Dominic Oval, which is another department, of course. It's Education Department land. He thinks the stop sign would suffice. Now, it does have TMR implications, obviously, because it's an intersection with a TMR highway. So for advice on that, I guess I can flip to you here, Rick, to see what the situation may be.
Yeah, so it has been, thank you, Mr Mayor. It has been raised with TMR. They met with Sergeant Ryan Smith last Tuesday, and they're taking that away to take into account his comments on what they can do. Some of it is driver behaviour, from what he's saying. But they're reviewing the whole speed signs, that give way sign, whether it should be a stop sign, a few other bits and pieces with road trains, heading a little bit east of Alpha as well, to the Craven Road. So there's a number of things in there. But it's controlled by TMR.
TMR also approached Sergeant Smith and I've sent a supporting letter because it's all, most of this stuff is completely irrelevant to council. This is separate stuff about putting painted sections on the bitumen, approaching, you know, like actually painting the town zone, red zones and that sort of stuff. Must be a new scheme that TMR have got access to, I'm not sure, but it's about a heightened awareness that you're entering a town area. However, Brian has a problem because enforcement is an issue in that QPS can't enforce the speed limit until you're 300 metres past the speed sign. Now in the case of the 60 signs in Alpha, that means you are well inside the built up area. And he doesn't want that to be the case. He wants people to be genuinely doing 60. So it was a pretty good conversation. He wasn't really after anything from council other than maybe a letter of support, and I've certainly given my indication to him that everything he suggested makes sense to me, and it wouldn't negatively impact on the community at all. I think except for a few young blokes might get caught speeding for the first few months after it's done.
Thank you. Thanks.
Actually, there'd be some people who've been long-term residents of Alpha who would get caught for failing to stop at that stop sign after it was first put there, because the engineer's right, there is a driver behaviour issue with that particular intersection that's quite serious. Any further questions? I won't go through it, I think it's relatively detailed, but I'm happy to answer any questions about it or provide the information either now or offline to councillors about any or all of what's there. Alright, there being none. No more. Can somebody remove Stephen's report, please? Councillor Gleeson, Councillor Rogers seconds. Those in favour? Carried. Questions for Stephen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I see that we have several positions across the region advertised employment opportunities for BRC. What extent is our advertisement for those positions?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so we use, as our number one option, we use Seek. We find that to be the most effective and cost affordable way to advertise. We also put all our positions on our own website, on our own social media platforms, LinkedIn, and we also tap into the LGAQ, have a employment platform that promotes all local government jobs in Queensland. Occasionally we do advertise the jobs in the newspaper, in the Longreach Leader. Unfortunately, to advertise any further afield in the Courier Mail or anything like that, the costs are substantial, and the research shows that online platforms are the number one way. We're in the process, it's a rapid initiative, a Outback Opportunities website's being developed at the moment, which will be used by all 7 rapid councils, that we can put all of our jobs on there, as well as promotional material about the benefits of living and working in central Western Queensland. So that's in development at the moment. I think we've had 2 workshops around that, and we hope to have a website up and running in the next probably 6 to 8 weeks.
Because I just noticed, because I checked on Seek the other day just out of interest, and there doesn't seem to be any of those positions unless they are newly arrived. Oh, I see them on the website and on our Facebook page, but I was just wondering to the extent.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, so those positions, just so you understand it's quite a process to develop the position descriptions, get them online. So yeah, if they're not on Seek right at the moment, they will be any day. It's just part of the process.
Yeah. I appreciate going to print media for a job or a handful of jobs is probably cost prohibitive. I just want to make sure that we have within reason, have a broad enough net to try and encourage people to come to the region. Happy.
Any further questions? That's probably first. 3.3.2, the CIB. Can I have somebody move we receive that, please? Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Hanson. Those in favour? Carried. Any questions regarding any of those letters?
Excuse me, Mr Mayor.
Yes, Councillor.
Number 2 there, where there's a letter from a resident of Clark Calden.
Yep.
I couldn't find it on here.
Did you find the letter from Mr. Bennett?
Oh, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. That's all right. Yes, no, I read it.
CEO was just asking whether he was actually after anything or not. To the best of the AMI's understanding of that correspondence, no, he's not.
He wants to come and see me to sort of.
Yeah, he wants to come and see me. We'll organise something for the deputy meeting. Three point three, Community Care Services Report. Can I have somebody move we receive that report, please? Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Seconded Councillor Peters. All in favour? Carried. Questions following yesterday's presentation from the CCS team? An explanation of that document. You've obviously the same report. There being none. Can I have somebody move 3.3.4, please? Economic development report.
Can you remind me? NPI on this one?
I don't think anyone has an NPI in 334. No, they did not, did they? Will somebody please move that we receive that report? Thank you, Councillor Plum. Seconded Councillor Hanson. All in favour? Carried. Any questions regarding that economic development report, please? Being none, I have somebody move item 3.3.5. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. We'll move to item 3.3.5. You'll note, Council, there's a number of documents have been circulated both in your agenda but also via email for this particular attachment. 2 of them. One is just an origin of the program, and 2 is the prospectus that we have submitted to the state government, and a version of which has gone to the federal government, chasing financial support for that program. We are constantly working on these documents, and they are a work in progress as requirements from state government changes or an enhancement of a particular area of it, but the genesis of the reports is the same, and the gist of the detail that is contained in them is always the same. For example, just last night, Stephen and I received, the CEO and I received a 1-page document from Selena that ramps up the cost to deliver this to other local government areas, so that if the state wants to roll it out on a bigger scale than just here, they've got an indicative costing to do so. It has no bearing on Buckhall and Regional Council's costings or Buckhall and Regional Council operations. It's only if the state is to say, look, this is the exact thing we want, but we want it on a bigger scale, what's it going to cost us, so that we've done the legwork. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. Outback Futures have done all of that legwork to get that off the ground. We've just been a support party. So happy for questions about any of all of this, and at the end of it, what we would like is that the both documents be endorsed as the resolution states, which will give credit and credibility to the program, because council's endorsing them, something they haven't had, like the previous council. Not that they didn't want to, but they haven't been given this opportunity, because this has all been developed over the March, April, May months. If no one's got any questions about it, councillor
Can
Peck.
I go into closed committee, please?
Yes.
I'd go into closed committee under proposing a contract by council possibly, or the business for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of council or someone else.
Councillor Peebles is moving that we go into closed session. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gleeson. All in favour? Against? 6-1. So, councillors, in front of you is a recommendation that council endorses the Head Yakka COVID-19 battle plan and the Head Yakka origins documents. Can I have somebody please move that? Moved Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Arthur. Those in favour? Opposed? Carried 7-0. 336, recording of general meetings. Background information has been supplied. Thoughts, comments, questions, or a move or review of the recommendation, please.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, this will continue after we are allowed to have open, which I'm all for, but yeah.
That would be my intention, and especially once we endorse this, then it becomes the formal position of council to record and film, because there's no time frame on this resolution. The style in which we do it may vary from time to time, and the location we're in and the requirements there may be differences in how it happens, but this is, I'll point out the nuance, this is not streaming, so this is not live. Live streaming is a whole different kettle of fish.
Probably considerably more expensive too.
Yeah, considerably more physically difficult to do in different locations. Due to internet access, internet speeds, platform you want to use, shutting on, shutting off. So this won't happen very often, but considering my positions on this previously and in the lead up to this commencement of this term, I would like to move this resolution. On a seconder. Plum? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the resolution? There being none, I'll put it to the vote. All in favour? Carried 7-0. 337. Barcaldine Regional Council Wild Dog and Pest Management Committee meeting minutes. As is the format, I'd like to throw to Councillor Hanson or Councillor Gleeson to provide any update any information that's relevant to that meeting that's not encapsulated in the minutes, as there are attendees on that advisory committee. Sorry to throw you in the deep end there, councillors. I could have warned you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I attended the meeting. Quite a beneficial meeting. I can't see that there's anything being missed out that we spoke about. I can't say more.
Went pretty well. Councillor Hanson, sort of first meeting for you as well.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, we did put up a few suggestions, which it's going to be ongoing with increase in scalp pricing. And I did bring up an issue whether they offer a bonus when they get so many dogs, they get paid an extra amount per dog after so many. But that's going to be an ongoing discussion. So apart from that, anything went well.
Excuse me again, Mr. Mayor. For the rest of the people in the room here, we were informed that there was a few of us that were new and naive to the committee, but anyway, we overcome that little matter, and hopefully it all progresses along quite nicely.
I had a smile on my face from ear to ear watching your physical reaction to that comment, Councillor Gleeson. I thought it was priceless. I just happened to have to leave the meeting before you could close off with your comments. But look, it is a relatively diverse group because of the makeup of the people that are on it. So hence why having two councillors there will help. Does anyone else have any questions for the councillors or for officers after reviewing the report?
Through you, Mr Mayor, is it possible as a non-committee member to attend those, just to sit in as an observer? Is there?
I personally wouldn't have a problem with that. I'd just check with
Can
the chair,
Yeah,
with Paul.
that's fine.
Councillor Peter.
Mr Mayor, can I just ask for a bit of help with the report? Just some of the initials, I can work a fair few of them out. But where JC said and PD, and I'm just not sure of all of them.
John Chandler.
John Chandler, yep.
John
Paul
Chandler.
Donnelly's the chair.
Yep.
Who else?
JC?
John Chandler.
Yes, John Chandler, righto.
AW is,
Anthony Wall.
Yep. LB is Liam Balderson. What we might suggest is that we have a, at
Brackets
the
up
beginning, after their name, we put their initials.
That'd be good, thanks,
If
Mr
that
Mayor.
helps you.
That'll help me, yep.
Just through you, Mr Mayor, one other thing that actually did come up through that meeting is they are looking for representatives from property owners through the 13 districts, I believe there is. So if any of you know anyone who wants to sit on that committee or represent the property owners in that district area, please put them in touch with us.
Yeah, formal, I think in the next Gazette, we're putting notice to call for expressions of interest for that, and we really don't expect every 13 positions to get filled. So if you know of people, we can press gang them via Tom or via Councillor Gleeson or Hanson to partake in that. That would be very beneficial because there's a significant underrepresentation in the, especially in the east, but even in the north. Okay, can I have somebody move that we receive those minutes? Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Gleeson. All in favour? Carried.
Mr Mayor, could you just change Egerton as EGERTI and not EDG? Or just for further reference when they're taken.
Councillor, I'll ask that you speak to the officers at Morning Tea regarding those spelling, if that's all right. Because it's not my minutes to amend, that's
Yeah, I didn't know.
Mr Donnelly's minutes to check.
Oh, is it? Rightio, I'll check. That's all right, I didn't know he was in there.
338. I won't move this because I'd like to propose an amendment. I don't want to have to do the whole formal meeting procedure. I'd like to amend the meeting date for the 21st of October to the 28th of October due to the conflict that I foreshadowed to councillors yesterday with the LGAQ conference from the 19th to the 21st. I'm not under any illusions that that conference will happen in its traditional form, but they're doing civic leaders via Skype, so there'll be something on that we'd be remiss not to be a part of. There's precedent. We do this most years. We move that October meeting to adjust to the LGAQ. Sometimes we bring it earlier, sometimes we bring it later. I'm proposing we take it later. Thoughts, comments, questions?
Just through you, Mr Mayor, I see all the meetings are actually in Barpool. I'm assuming that this COVID thing's lifted, the meetings will start rotating through other towns.
Yeah, we can amend this by resolution as well. We just got to do it so many days before, like so we wouldn't be able to do it in between a meeting, if you know what I mean. So if the restrictions eased, we wouldn't be able to just change the location from Barcoolan to Alpha. But at the next meeting, we'd then be able to amend the future list of locations, yeah. And if it doesn't lift, then we might look at where we would have the early meetings next time they do, you know. I do, and I'm comfortable having it now if councillors want, I do want to look at the propensity to meet away from Barcoolan as often as we do, given the costs involved in doing that and the very limited ability for the public, because we meet during work hours, the public to actually interact with us anyway, is what we've traditionally done, like apart from the benefit to the small business that provides us morning tea and lunch, is what we're doing the best way of providing access to councillors. And I don't have a really defined opinion one way or the other, I just want to ask a question, and if it clarifies that we need to continue doing what we've been doing, then I'm fine with that. I'm just cognizant of the fact that we roll into town like the mafia in a fleet of white Prados. We get in there between 8 and 9. We meet in a room that is open to the public, but by and large, we very seldom ever get anybody come unless it's the 3 months before council election. And then,
Touche.
and then which I was very grateful for. Councillor Arthur, you hit the ground running. And then at any time from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, we all jump in them same Prados and we all roar back to our respective homes. And I mean, I'm definitely proposing an enhanced community engagement policy as we move forward and a different way of doing that. And I've tried to get started and have been very restricted in my ability to do it, but it will be happening, more dedicated mayoral and councillor offices in these towns. So I'd like for people to be more engaged with what we do, and if that is having the formal meetings, still having 2 formal meetings in every town every year, if that's the best way to do it, then I'm all for it. If there's a better way that requires less travel, less costs involved, and a better outcome, then that might be better too. So whether we just foreshadow that now and have a conversation around that over the next few months, or we formally debate it, I don't know, but that is not wise. I'm mentioning that this is not bringing that in by stealth. These are listed for here on the basis that we limit the restrictions, limit the amount of travel, while we all, like, we're aware of the sensitivities in a couple of communities, especially, or 3, sorry, around travel. So, but yes, definitely would like to have a conversation about whether we don't have a better way of doing what we've done in the past. Historically, December, January are always here, and the budget meeting in June, and one other. July. So June, July, and January, December are historic back-ordered meetings, and then there's a rotating formula that those who've been around longer than me can tell you by the month where they're supposed to meet. But I welcome somebody else to talk on.
Mr Mayor, just on your point there, I think that probably there's a better way of communicating than having meetings in our towns anyway, because people can come and sit in the public and can't talk to us unless they've got a deputation that day. So your idea of having more of your presence in our communities on a monthly basis, I think probably gives our constituents a much greater opportunity to interact with yourself and council. So looking down the track, if you want to go back to 1 meeting in each community or something like that, you know, or whatever you come up with, I think it's probably worth investigating.
So I've had one brief road trip to Aramac and Muttaburra, and it was literally brief. What did I arrive in at Port at about 1:30, and well, actually it wasn't that brief in Muttaburra. I didn't leave there until nearly 7 o'clock, as Councillor Rogers' phone tracking app detected on the way home. That was forecast a week out. Councillor Rogers was able to come with me. My intent would be to at least go a month in advance and welcome all councillors who want to come, even if we take 2 cars. If like, literally the whole 7 of us are free for the day, and we're going to go to Alpha, or we're going to go to Muttaburra, wherever we're going, welcome that. Welcome. It's not those. There's certainly not an attempt for me to meet one-on-one. It's an attempt, well, which is good if I can, but if other councillors want to be a part of that, we've also used the opportunity now while we're talking about it. I would like to rejig the style of our community engagement forums to be less of a group of 7 of us sitting at the front of the room and one person's doing all the talking, and I want the community to actually engage with us. So I intend to break up those sessions somewhat so that there's councillors with a different table, for want of a better word, for might be different projects that are underway, or a different element of council, might be a rural roads table or a town water table, and have Stephen can work with his officers to do however he wants to do that. But rather than us all sitting up the front of a town hall having stones and whatever thrown at us, and you councillors sitting there in a mute state, I want councillors to actually be able to talk to the people about the issues that they've got, and we'll take notes, and then when we come back to do a further follow-up, we can say, look, these you know, you wanted some bitumen laid here, or you wanted a footpath here, or not talking about taking away operational capacities, in case the officers are scared about that. It's more of, and which is why the officers are there, would be there with us, so that if there is an operational issue raised, like has been in the past, town water pressure in Aramac, they can address that through operational matters. But if there's stuff that people want done, or, you know, skate park in Jericho, for an example, they can talk to councillors and get their feedback about it, and we're not going to make policy on the run, because we'll be broken up into little groups, and obviously we can have an address in a section for questions if that's what people want. But in talking to residents right across the area, from Muttaburra to Alpha, they would like to hear more from councillors. They would like to know what their individual councillors' opinions are on items that are before council, whether it's a major capital works program or a grant, or they want to hear that. They don't just want to hear one person's position, so I intend to give them that. And how many of them we run will really depend on need and availability of staff and capacity to travel and all of that. But we're currently running one a year towards the end of the year, and we combine that with a disaster preparedness session, which could all form part of this engagement. I think if we look at our budget process in future years that's not impacted by council elections and by COVID-19, I would really genuinely like to have more community involvement in the idea, the projects that we're going to put into our capital works and special projects. So how we may be able to factor, once we've brainstormed everything, whether we factor in a meeting in each of our communities that we say, well, look, this is what's under consideration, what are your thoughts? You know, but this year, obviously, that, whilst it's been my long-held ambition, I never forecast it because of, well, how would we do it? You know, it'd be impossible to facilitate this year. So that's a long-winded way to adopt the dates and location. Brett's sitting over there thinking he rolled through his first meeting, but he's going to be still here at 10 o'clock tonight if he doesn't hurry up. So that's to give you an intention. Councillor, who won first, then people.
I just heard a comment that you went to Muttaburra the other day, and some people were disappointed they couldn't catch up with you because they didn't know. So I think if we're going to continue, we need to get it out there so that people know that you're going to attend the meeting.
Yeah. And of course, I was sitting in the most public place in Muttaburra, sitting outside the front of Fiona shop, so they all knew I was there.
Yeah, and they wondered why they didn't know. So
all I can tell them is there doesn't need to be a reason. I will be there just sometimes because I can be. Like, I won't be just visiting because there's a problem.
Yeah.
Councillor Peoples, question?
I'm happy to move the motion if you want to go that way.
Councillor Peoples, seconder. Councillor Gleeson. All in favour? Carried. 339, disaster management report. The local disaster management group pandemic sub-plan. Comments, questions? Stephen, have you got anything you'd like to add to this?
No, not really, Mr. Mayor. We just tried to summarise again some of the information we shared at the subgroup meetings around how we've been dealing with COVID. And yeah, I suppose it's done the opposite way around, is we're now adopting the pandemic plan that we didn't have at the start. So that's no one's fault. That's the situation we've been faced with, and we are at the mercy of the district disaster group to some extent as well. So I know that the Mayor and our shared disaster coordinator and our executive assistant or coordinator, Hayley, put a lot of work into modifying and getting this document ready for today. So.
Can I just refer you to page 13? I'm just going to propose an amendment there, Hayley, if you want to take note. But before I do the amendment, page 13 of the actual plan, not the agenda. And if you can't get it open in the can now, just have a chance to have a look at it later. It's probably the most relevant page for a high-level observation of the document. It determines what our triggers are to activate our LDMG. And I think I mentioned out of session yesterday, but we're now in open meeting, so I'll mention it here. Most other, if not all other LDMG groups plans in our region have, so if those of you who've got it open, you look in the stand-up box, the trigger on the right, it says confirmed case in the Central West region, but not the Barcaldine Regional Council. Most other, if not all, that appears in the orange section, lean forward. However, as I said yesterday, we are the gateway to all of those other shires predominantly, and until we were convinced that the case had not transited through our area and exposed potentially our residents, I deemed that my opinion on the formation of this plan is that we should be at stand up. So that may not necessarily mean even activating the LDCC, but at least we would be at a heightened awareness, because so there could be a case in Blackwall or a case in Longridge, till we know where they'd come from, what their travel movements were. Could be in Whitton, like they could have come from Townsville, they could have come from Rockhampton, but either way they've got to come through at least one of our communities. So I'm highlighting that because effectively this is a generic document. That's one of the most critical changes in it. I'm just wondering for readability, Hayley, whether we say confirmed case in the Central West region and delete after that, but not the Barcaldine Regional Council, because the next dot point counterdicts that.
What page, Mr Mayor?
Page 13 of the plan, not the agenda.
14, Mr Mayor.
Oh, sorry, it's not getting the cover, it's actually labelled page 13 of 51. So yeah, so in the can pages it's 14. It's got yellow, orange, red and green. Other than that, I commend the plan. It is a pandemic plan focused at COVID-19, hence all the preamble. If another virus was to come that had different symptom presentations, different pandemic, the plan would be amended, but the back end of the triggers would be effectively exactly the same. There's no more questions. Can I have somebody in? And if everybody's happy, like...
Just on the lean forward.
Yes?
Doesn't really say what the trigger is. To move from alert to...
No, there probably isn't one. I took it away when I moved. The trigger would have been a confirmed case in the Central West. So maybe you could even put a trigger there that the further external to our region that the spread of the virus had become more significant, or a significant increase in confirmed cases external to the Central West region. What's the problem with changing things? Councillors be comfortable with that. If we went to lean forward, if we started to notice that there was significant cases appearing in the likes of Clermont, Emerald, Townsville, Charters Towers, Mount Isa, if we were starting to get surrounded with them, or we'd elevate from alert to lean forward.
Considering there's a potential 2 to 4 weeks lag between those being
Presentation.
identified and potential travel.
That's right. So that'll be our trigger, will be an increase, and that can be determined by the LDMG. Sufficient notes there, Brett, Hayley. If somebody moved that we adopt that, receive it and adopt People's Plum. All in favour? Carried. And now the revolving door starts. 3.3.10.
That'd be me, I'm out.
And Rogers and Peoples. Don't go far. Councillors, the Deputy Prime Minister's correspondence is there. We have received funding from them already. We do not believe it to be for this road submission. I have sought clarification on that, and we're still waiting. We believe this to be a separate issue. Council's contribution as per that table is in the order of 800,000 if every project gets funded, but that does mean the Australian government's contribution would be 3.4 million. Given the time of year it is, it would be unlikely that we'd be expected to carry all of that in. My political assessment, not technical, is that we would be unlikely to have to do all of that in next financial year. So there's a potential to spread that $800,000 in council contribution over 2 budgets. Rick, would you disagree with that? Like, as in, have you identified those projects because they would all need to be done in a 12-month period for some reason? Could you spread them out if you had the option?
Oh, we would definitely spread them out if we had the option.
Yeah, right. That being said, has anyone have any questions about those roads? They were identified in March, so prior to this council's being sworn in, but you're entitled to do what you like here, but I'd respectfully suggest that it's probably too late to change anyway. And I probably should have asked officers to bring this to the last meeting, but still, even then, it was a month after. We just have perhaps an understanding of the methodology to put these in. Were they identified as the next priority roads? Were they expensive fixes that you were looking for a lot of money for?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the discussion with Rick, the combination of factors, we're doing the town street reseal and rehab program, so we identified what the next streets were in that program. Also, with sharing the work across work crews in different areas. Rick contacted the senior work supervisors to see what they thought the priorities were in their area, which is why that for Alpha especially, those roads. And because at that stage we thought the Alpha crew would not have any work, any construction work. Now it's the opposite, that they're going to have too much work, so we're probably going to be in trouble if we do get this funding. We're not going to have the crews to be able to do the work.
It's the best kind of trouble to have for financial purposes, but not much for our structuring of works, head of works program. All right, if we don't have any further discussion, yes, Councillor Gleeson.
Through the Mayor, you said the dates, the dates can certainly change.
Well, we would see, we say that, but I think because it's taken so long, if this had been announced already, they asked us when our potential construction start dates were on these jobs, when they asked for it, but that obviously over time changes, but we may not get word of this until July, for example. Well, that obviously delays everything. We may not get word of whether this is going to be funded until the budget's ended, which is not even a real budget. So there was an indicative thing given there, and it actually may be potentially beneficial. Rick, can you answer this? Some of them jobs can get done before Christmas, because if the TMR works are going to occur after Christmas, predominantly for us, we might need to jump into this earlier rather than later if we get the funding.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it also hinges on whether we get an extension of time for flood damage. So we're flat out doing all the flood damage works at the moment. If we then add this construction in, we've got to give with the coronavirus, social distancing stuff, where we're trying to get crews back and forth to work. It's probably reduced our productivity by around 30%. So it's adding all that in together to try and do the works program.
Oh, I can hardly hear you either, Councillor Plum.
I can't hear
We'll wait till the door's shut. There we go.
Sorry, Rick.
Okay.
Can I just ask one more question, please?
You can answer as many as you like, Councillor, please.
Pavement Seal is bitumen surface, say a 4 metre bitumen surface, is that the way I understand it?
Only 6, isn't it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, which project you're
The Craven Road.
Yeah,
Craven
so
Road.
we'll always go 6.
6. And, yeah, and the Stardowns Road, yeah, so that's just extending the pavements that's already there, extending by an extra 1, 2, 3, 4 kilometres. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
There's gaps on those roads. As you'd probably be aware, the Craven Road in particular has a gap. That would fill that gap. And the Stardowns Road has a section, it has a gap as well. And that's what that would be, is it, Rick? From the town common to Elford?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the first gap, as you come over the common boundary.
On the Stardowns Road.
Yeah, so it's 3 inches next to extend the seal out.
Yeah. Councillor Plum, questions?
No, I don't have any.
Answered? No. Can I have somebody move that, please? Move Councillor Hanson, second Councillor Gleeson. The correspondence and the project to endorse that and the project was sent to the Prime Minister. I have the MPI. I relinquish the chair.
Moving on to our next item, 3.3.11, Racing Queensland. Steve, have you got anything that you want to say about that?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Rogers. Look, I've had a number of discussions with Racing Queensland, and we've attached the letter that we originally sent on the 1st of April when Council made the decision to close the racecourse, which effectively then meant we lost our TAB meeting for the Tree of Knowledge Cup race meeting. I suppose I've been conscious that given the investment that Council's made in the racetrack, I didn't want us to have a bad relationship with Racing Queensland ongoing, that because we'd closed the racetrack and then that caused further complications for them. So I've spent time speaking with Simon Stout, who's the General Manager of Thoroughbreds for Racing Queensland, and indicated that Council is very keen to secure a future TAB meeting or multiple TAB meetings, given the track is in pristine condition, or it was up until running 10 races with maximum fields last weekend. And that discussion highlighted a few things. It highlighted that there's going to be a number of race clubs, particularly small ones around Queensland, that are going to financially not be able to continue as we come out of COVID because they're driven by volunteers, they had no money in the bank, and so on, and they might have one TAB race meeting a year. So what Simon suggested is that Barcaldine is in a really good position to work with Racing Queensland to pick up any of those meetings that become available. The number one thing that holds a club back from TAB meetings is not actually the filming on the day. The number one thing is the scoping to be able to set up to run a telecast event. So to set up the scoping costs about $20,000. So Racing Queensland has already sent all their IT people out. They've done the scoping for our racetrack here. So for them to activate a TAB meeting in the future is not very challenging at all. The thing that I'd like to be able to do on behalf of Council, because I see this as a economic development opportunity, is that we may need to have to give something to Racing Queensland to entice them to hold a TAB meeting. So that could be we pay for the flights to get the telecast crew out here. In return, we get that national exposure of Barcaldine in every club, pub, home around Australia that's watching racing, and it also fits with our economic development strategy around Invest Barcaldine region. So we'd be looking at signage at the racetrack on the barriers that is all branded Invest Barcaldine region. So really it was initially making sure we have a good relationship with Racing Queensland, and now hopefully seizing on a future opportunity over the next 3 to 4 months that we might be able to host a TAB meeting.
Thank you, Stephen. Does anyone else want to make a comment or a remark about, ask any questions?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. It would be good, long term, there will be quite a few, it'll be beneficial to the area, as you're saying, through advertisement and that way too, and that'll help with tourism somewhere along the track.
Definitely. Yeah, well, and look, through you, councillor Rogers, the thing is when Longreach had their TAB meeting last year, and I was away with the mayor at the time and we were down south and we looked at it on TV and it looked terrible because it's obviously dust and dirt and whatever. You look at our track, it's just would be so fantastic. People would go, wow, look at it out there. So I think from a tourism perspective, it's got real benefit to show off the region.
Thank you.
So is there any more comments or questions? So have I got a mover for that? Councillor Arthur, and a seconder, Councillor Hanson. All those in favour? Yeah. So, yeah, that's next section. I'll just get, oh, thank you.
Three 12 councillors. The fire report, just a progress report from QTC. Will somebody move that we receive that, please? Councillor Plum, Councillor Gleeson, those in favour. Carried. 7-0. Any questions on that? Briefed on that post the last meeting. It's really just a time frame, very one page, very generic. You all happy with that? Time being 10 AM, we break for more than 10.